The rejection. The crystalline spires of the Galactic Council headquarters pierced the eternal night of space, their impossible geometries defying human architectural understanding. Captain Eleanor Shaw stood before the towering entrance, her diplomatic uniform feeling suddenly inadequate against the grandeur of alien civilization. The weight of humanity's future pressed down on her shoulders like a gravitational anomaly. 3 months of preparation had led to this moment. 3 months of studying alien protocols, memorizing the complex hierarchies of the Council's member species, and rehearsing arguments that might convince beings who had mastered interstellar travel before humans had invented the wheel. Captain Shaw. The melodic tones of her AI assistant, Arya, whispered through her neural implant. Your heart rate is elevated. Shall I administer a calming agent? No, Shaw subvocalized. I need to be sharp. Natural responses might actually work in our favor today. The massive doors, composed of some iridescent material that seemed to shift between solid and liquid states, parted silently. A Zalo representative awaited her, its scaled form draped in ceremonial metals that clinked softly with each movement. The species' reputation for cold logic and unforgiving judgment was well documented in Earth's diplomatic archives. The Council awaits, Human Shaw, the Zalo announced, its translator rendering the words in perfect English despite the creature's lack of anything resembling human vocal cords. Follow. The corridors of the Council station were a testament to the collaboration of 1,000 species, or perhaps their competition. Each section displayed different environmental conditions, atmospheric compositions, and gravity fields, all seamlessly integrated through technology that might as well have been magic to human understanding. Shaw passed through security checkpoints where machines she couldn't comprehend scanned her at levels she preferred not to think about. Her diplomatic credentials were verified, her genetic structure analyzed, and her intentions somehow measured by devices that seemed to peer into her soul. The Council chamber itself was a vast amphitheater, its dome displaying a real-time map of the known galaxy. Earth was barely visible, a tiny point of light in the unfashionable end of the Orion arm. Shaw felt the weight of that insignificance as she took her position at the petitioner's podium. The Council members materialized in their seats, some physically present, others attending through technologies that created perfect holographic representations. The Zalo dominated the upper tiers, their scaled forms gleaming under the stellar light. The Real, with their shifting, nebulous bodies, occupied the middle sections, their telepathic communications creating a background hum that Shaw's neural implant translated as static. The Aeon, looking almost human except for their silver skin and eyes that reflected the entire electromagnetic spectrum, sat closest to the floor. Petition hearing for Species 7294, designation, Human, Soul System, begins, announced the chief arbiter, a Zalo whose scales had turned white with age. Captain Eleanor Shaw speaking on behalf of Earth's unified government. State your case. Shaw activated her presentation matrix, and the space above her podium filled with holographic displays. Honorable Council, she began, her voice steady despite the pressure, I stand before you representing not just a planet, but a species at a crucial turning point in its development. The display showed Earth's rapid technological advancement, careful to highlight achievements while diplomatically avoiding mentions of the wars and conflicts that had driven much of that progress. In the 50 years since first contact, humanity has demonstrated its ability to adapt, learn, and contribute to the galactic community. She proceeded to outline Earth's potential contributions, unique biological adaptations that might benefit medical science, innovative approaches to problem-solving that differed from standard council methodologies, and rich cultural traditions that could enhance the galactic community's diversity. The council members remained impassive, but Shaw detected subtle signs of their reactions, the slight bristling of Zalo scales, the rippling patterns in real energy fields, the narrowing of Aeon pupils. She pressed on, moving to the economic arguments. Earth's position in the Orion Arm provides a strategic checkpoint for trade routes. Our system's unusual stellar composition offers unique opportunities for resource gathering. But more importantly, We have reviewed the economic data, interrupted a real representative, its thoughts translated into crisp, mechanical speech. Your species' resource management history is concerning. Shaw had anticipated this objection. True, we have made mistakes. But our ability to learn from them, to adapt and overcome, is precisely what concerns us, a Zalo counselor cut in. Your species adapts through conflict. You advance through competition rather than cooperation. Even now, your diplomatic overtures carry undertones of military preparation. A natural defensive posture for a young species, Shaw countered. One that would be unnecessary with council membership and protection. The Aeon representative finally spoke, its voice carrying harmonics that made Shaw's teeth ache. Protection? Or are you seeking permission to expand? We have observed your population growth rates, your resource consumption patterns. The mathematical models suggest you would require colonial territories within 50 years. Territories that could be negotiated peacefully, under council supervision, Shaw argued. Which is precisely why Earth seeks membership now, before such needs become pressing. The chamber fell silent as the council members communicated among themselves through channels Shaw couldn't perceive. Minutes stretched like hours until the chief arbiter raised a clawed hand. We have deliberated, the ancient Zalo announced. The petition for council membership is denied. Shaw's diplomatic training prevented her from showing the shock and anger that surged through her system. Honorable Council, I request the grounds for denial. Humanity is deemed insufficiently stable for full council participation. Your species requires further development, further proof of its ability to exist within galactic society without disruption. How are we to prove ourselves without the opportunity? Shaw challenged, stepping slightly forward on the podium. That is not the council's concern, the Aeon representative stated flatly. This session is concluded. Earth's next petition will not be considered for one standard galactic cycle. 25 years. They were locking Earth out of galactic politics for 25 years, enough time for an entire generation to grow up under the shadow of rejection. As the council members began to disappear from their seats, Shaw stood rigid at the podium, her mind racing. This wasn't just a diplomatic setback, it was a potential death sentence for human expansion. Without council approval, Earth would be limited in its colonial efforts, restricted in its technological development, and vulnerable to the whims of more established species. She left the chamber with measured steps, maintaining dignity until she reached her private diplomatic shuttle. Only then did she allow herself to express the fury that had been building since the pronouncement. Aria, she commanded her AI, begin recording. Priority message for Earth Central Command, Diplomatic Encryption Protocol 7. She took a deep breath, her decision crystallizing. The Council has made their position clear. They see us as children playing with fire. It's time to show them exactly how hot that fire can burn. The message she proceeded to record would set in motion events that would shake the foundations of galactic society. The Council had made a critical error in judgment. They had assumed humanity would accept their verdict with grace. They were about to learn otherwise. The response. The news of Earth's rejection hit the planet like a solar flare. Within hours of Shaw's return, the global networks erupted with discussions, debates, and increasingly angry calls for action. The Earth Central Command's emergency session stretched into its 14th hour as military and civilian leaders grappled with the implications of the Council's decision. Shaw stood before the assembled leadership, her diplomatic uniform exchanged for the more practical dress of a fleet captain. The chamber's holographic displays showed real-time reactions from every major population center on Earth and its colonies. The people wanted answers, and more importantly, they wanted action. The Council's decision wasn't just a rejection, Shaw explained, her voice carrying the weight of first-hand experience. It was a declaration of intent. They mean to contain us, to ensure we remain dependent on their approved technological development paths. Admiral Chen, her silver hair catching the light of the displays, leaned forward. "You're suggesting this was predetermined?" "The arguments didn't matter," Shaw confirmed. "They'd decided before I entered the chamber. The Zalo see us as a potential rival, the Real consider us mentally unstable, and the Aeon." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "The Aeon view us as a primitive species playing with technologies we don't understand." "And your recommendation, Captain?" President Rodriguez's hologram asked from his secure location. Shaw activated her personal display, and a new set of projections filled the air. "We have options they don't expect us to consider. The Council's power relies on controlling official channels of technological development, trade routes, and colonial expansion. But they've left gaps we can exploit." The display showed a map of known space, highlighting regions that fell outside direct Council control. "These are the frontier zones, areas where Council influence is limited. The species there operate under their own rules, develop their own technologies." "Pirates and outcasts," General Wong scoffed. "Innovators and rebels," Shaw corrected. "Species who've rejected Council authority and prospered. The Nexus Collective in the Perseus Arm, the Cyranic technocracy near the Carina-Sagittarius border. They've developed technologies the Council either can't or won't control." The room filled with murmurs as the implications sank in. Shaw continued, "More importantly, they're willing to trade with non-Council species. The Council's rejection doesn't have to limit our growth, it can free us from their restrictions." "You're talking about dealing with outlaws," Admiral Chen observed, but her tone held more interest than criticism. "I'm talking about survival," Shaw replied. "The Council expects us to either accept their verdict and wait 25 years for another chance, or to react with obvious military preparation that would justify their decision. They don't expect us to find a third option." President Rodriguez's hologram flickered as he leaned back in thought. "What exactly are you proposing, Captain?" Shaw's next series of projections showed detailed plans that her AI had helped develop during the journey home. A three-pronged approach. First, we establish discrete contact with non-Council advanced species, particularly those with complementary technologies to our own. Second, we accelerate our independent development programs, focusing on areas the Council considers too dangerous or unstable. And third. She paused for effect. We prepare for the inevitable confrontation, but not in ways they'll expect. The chamber erupted in discussion, but Shaw wasn't finished. The Council's greatest weakness is their own stability. They've maintained power for so long that they've become inflexible. They can't adapt quickly to unexpected situations. And humanity's greatest strength is adaptation. Admiral Chen completed the thought, a slow smile spreading across her face. The next hours were filled with detailed planning. Shaw's proposals were radical, but they offered something that the military and civilian leadership desperately needed, a path forward that didn't require either submission or immediate war. The plan that emerged would reshape human society. Special development zones would be established in the asteroid belt and on Mars, officially for mining operations but actually serving as cover for advanced research facilities. Diplomatic missions to frontier worlds would be expanded, with carefully selected teams making contact with non-Council species. Most importantly, Earth would present a carefully crafted image to Council observers, one of a disappointed but accepting species, while beneath the surface, they would be preparing for a very different future. As the session concluded, President Rodriguez addressed Shaw directly. "This path you've chosen for us, Captain, it's dangerous. If the Council discovers our true activities before we're ready." "With respect, Mr. President," Shaw replied, "every path before us is dangerous. The Council has shown us that they won't accept humanity as equals. So we'll have to prove our worth in ways they can't ignore." In the months that followed, Shaw's plan took shape with remarkable speed. The rejected diplomat found herself elevated to a new position, Director of Special Development, answering directly to Earth Central Command. Her first task was establishing contact with the Nexus Collective, a loose alliance of species who had rejected Council authority generations ago. The meeting took place in a neutral location, a hollowed-out asteroid in unclaimed space. Shaw's diplomatic experience proved invaluable as she negotiated with beings whose very existence the Council denied. The Collective's representative, a being of pure energy contained within an articulated metallic frame, was initially skeptical of human intentions. "Your species seeks Council membership one day, then comes to us the next," the being observed, its voice creating patterns of light within its containment field. "Why should we trust your intentions?" Shaw's response was carefully prepared. "Because we offer something unique, a bridge between worlds. We can still operate in Council space, maintain legitimate trade, while developing partnerships here. We're not asking to join the Collective, we're proposing a new kind of alliance." The negotiations lasted weeks, but in the end, the first agreements were signed. Earth would receive access to technologies the Council had banned: quantum consciousness transfer, dark energy manipulation, biological enhancement techniques. In return, humanity would provide the Collective with access to their unique innovations, particularly in the field of AI development and neural interface systems. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the special development programs began producing results. Free from Council restrictions, human scientists made breakthrough after breakthrough. The neural interface technology that had been limited to simple communication expanded into full consciousness integration. Quantum computing moved from theory to practice as human researchers combined Council-approved methods with techniques learned from the Collective. But perhaps most importantly, humanity began to change. The knowledge that they had been rejected, that the galaxy's powers saw them as inferior, created a unified purpose that transcended old Earth divisions. The species that had spent millennia fighting itself now found a common cause, proving the Council wrong. Shaw watched these developments from her new office in the Mars Development Center, where the next phase of her plan was taking shape. The Council had rejected humanity's petition for membership, but in doing so, they had inadvertently set in motion events that would change the galaxy forever. As she reviewed the latest reports from the research teams, Shaw allowed herself a small smile. The Council thought they had contained humanity's growth. Instead, they had removed the only constraints that might have kept humanity's ambitions in check. The galaxy was about to learn a crucial lesson about human nature. When denied a seat at the table, humans didn't sulk in the corner. They built their own table, and they made it better than the original, the Revolution. 5 years after the Council's rejection, the Mars Development Center had transformed from a simple research facility into humanity's springboard to the stars. Captain Eleanor Shaw, now Director Shaw, stood in the quantum observation chamber, watching as the latest breakthrough took shape before her eyes. "Integration Test 17 successful," announced Dr. Yuki Tanaka, her lead scientist. "The quantum consciousness transfer is stable across interstellar distances." Shaw watched the holographic display where two minds, separated by the distance between Mars and Europa, synchronized perfectly. This technology, forbidden by Council decree but perfected through collaboration with the Nexus Collective, would change everything. "Time to connection?" 3.2 seconds, Yuki replied, her augmented eyes glowing with excitement. "Fast enough to maintain consciousness coherence. We can effectively transfer human consciousness across star systems without loss." This was just one of many developments that would have been impossible under Council restrictions. In the years since their rejection, humanity had made technological leaps that would have taken decades under Council supervision. But more importantly, they had done it quietly. "Director," Arya's voice interrupted through her neural implant. "Priority message from Nexus Scout Team 7. They've found something." Shaw's pulse quickened. The scout teams, officially registered as independent research vessels, had been searching the galaxy's edges for exactly this kind of discovery. "Show me." The quantum display shifted, showing a star system far from established trade routes. There, hidden in the shadow of a gas giant, was something that shouldn't exist, a massive structure of clearly artificial origin, but predating both human and council civilization. Precursor technology, Shaw breathed. The mythical species that had vanished from the galaxy eons ago, leaving behind only fragments of their advanced civilization. The Council claimed authority over all precursor artifacts, but they couldn't claim what they didn't know existed. Analysis confirms it's a manufacturing facility, Arya reported. Still operational, though dormant. Initial scans suggest compatibility with our quantum interface systems. Shaw's mind raced with the possibilities. The Council maintained their power through technological superiority, but this could change the balance completely. Contact the Collective. We'll need their expertise for this. But before she could issue further orders, another alert demanded her attention. This one made her blood run cold. Director, Arya's tone had shifted to urgent. Council surveillance ships detected in the Kuiper Belt. They're using new scanning technologies. Our dampening fields may not be sufficient. 5 years of careful preparation, of hidden development and secret alliances, all at risk. The Council wasn't supposed to notice their activities for at least another decade. Something had tipped them off. How long until they're in range of the Mars facilities? Approximately 72 hours at current velocity. Shaw's mind shifted into crisis mode, years of diplomatic and military training kicking in. Initiate Protocol Omega. All research data to be transferred to secure locations. Non-essential personnel to evacuation points. And get me Earth Central Command. The next hours were a blur of activity. The Mars Development Center, designed with exactly this scenario in mind, began its transformation. Visible facilities morphed into legitimate research stations, while the true laboratories and revolutionary technologies were moved to hidden locations throughout the solar system. In her private chamber, Shaw conducted an emergency session with Earth's leadership. "We're not ready," General Wong stated flatly. "The defense systems are only at 60% capacity. If the Council decides to move against us..." "They won't," Shaw interrupted. "Not directly. That's not their way. They'll investigate, probe, look for evidence of prohibited development. When they find nothing obvious, they'll increase restrictions on legitimate trade and technology transfer. Classic containment strategy." "And if they find something?" President Rodriguez asked. "They won't," Shaw assured them. "But we need to accelerate our timetable. The precursor facility changes everything. If we can activate it, understand its technologies, we won't need decades to catch up to Council level. We might even surpass them." The decision was made. While the Council ships approached, humanity would launch its boldest move yet. Under cover of the distraction in the solar system, the human collective joint expedition would attempt to activate the precursor facility. Shaw transferred to the expedition vessel herself. If they were going to risk everything, she needed to be there. The ship, incorporating both human and collective technology, could cross vast distances through methods the Council considered theoretically impossible. As they prepared for departure, Shaw received one final update from Mars. The Council ships had begun their inspection. They would find exactly what humanity wanted them to find, evidence of a chastened species, carefully following development restrictions while harboring a quiet resentment. The perfect cover for what was really happening. The expedition ship, designated Prometheus, slipped away from the solar system through channels the Council didn't know existed. Shaw stood on the bridge, watching Earth's sun diminish behind them. The next few weeks would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. The journey to the precursor facility was tense. The ship's hybrid systems, combining human AI with collective quantum technology, allowed them to travel in ways that confused conventional Council detection methods. But discovery wasn't the only risk. Analysis of the facility's outer sections complete, reported Dr. Sarah Chen, the team's xenoarchaeologist. The architecture matches fragments found in other precursor sites, but this facility is intact. The question is, why was it abandoned? That question haunted the team as they approached the massive structure. The facility hung in space like a frozen cascade of metallic petals, each layer containing unknown technologies and potential dangers. The integration team, led by Dr. Tanaka, established their first connection with the facility's systems. The quantum interfaces are responding, she reported, excitement barely contained. The precursors, their computational methods were similar to what we've developed. It's like they thought the same way we do. That revelation sent ripples through the scientific community. The Council had always maintained that humanity's approach to technology was dangerously unstable. But if the precursors, the galaxy's first great civilization, had followed similar paths. As the team worked to activate the facility's core systems, Shaw received regular updates from Earth. The Council inspection had concluded, finding only minor violations, exactly as planned. But their increased scrutiny meant the window of opportunity was shrinking. We need to move faster, Shaw announced to the team. The Council's not going to wait another 20 years to check on us again. Whatever we're going to find here, we need to find it soon. Dr. Tanaka's team made the breakthrough on the 23rd day. As they interfaced with the facility's central core, something unexpected happened. The quantum consciousness transfer technology they developed didn't just connect with the precursor systems, it awakened them. The facility hummed to life, its systems recognizing the human interfaces as authorized users. Data began flowing, revealing secrets that the Council had never imagined. The precursors hadn't vanished or died out, they had transformed themselves, ascending to a higher plane of existence through the very technologies the Council now banned, and they had left behind the means for others to follow. Shaw stood in the facility's central chamber, watching as ancient displays sparked to life, revealing truths that would reshape galactic civilization. The Council had rejected humanity, forcing them to find their own path. In doing so, they had inadvertently set humanity on the course the precursors had intended all along. The revolution wouldn't be fought with weapons or ships. It would be fought with understanding and transformation. Humanity was about to evolve, and the Council wouldn't be able to stop it. The transformation. The precursor facility's central core pulsed with energy as Dr. Tanaka initiated the first full consciousness transfer test. Director Shaw watched from behind quantum-shielded barriers as the volunteer, Dr. Marcus Cruz, prepared for humanity's next evolutionary step. Neural interface stable, Arya reported, monitoring the process through multiple dimensional layers. Quantum coherence at optimal levels. Precursor systems are responding to human consciousness patterns. Dr. Cruz lay in the transfer chamber, his mind about to become the first human consciousness to experience what the precursors had discovered eons ago. "Ready when you are," he said calmly, though the subtle tremor in his voice betrayed his nervousness. Initiating transfer in 3, 2, 1. The chamber filled with light that seemed to bend reality itself. Dr. Cruz's physical form remained unchanged, but sensors detected his consciousness expanding into dimensions that human science had barely begun to understand. For 7 tense minutes, they monitored his vital signs and neural patterns. Then he opened his eyes. I can see everything," he whispered. "The facility, the ship, the space between, it's all connected. We've been looking at reality wrong all this time. The physical universe, it's just the surface layer." Shaw leaned forward. "What do you mean, Marcus?" "The precursors didn't leave," he explained, his voice filled with wonder. "They're still here, still everywhere, just operating on a level of reality we couldn't perceive. And they've been waiting for someone to follow them." The implications were staggering. The Council, with all their supposed wisdom, had been enforcing restrictions that prevented species from achieving what the precursors had intended, a transformation beyond physical limitations. But the discovery came with a price. "Council ships detected entering the sector," Arya announced suddenly. Multiple vessels, advanced configurations. They must have tracked our quantum signatures. Shaw's mind raced. They weren't ready for confrontation, not yet. How long until they reached the facility? Approximately 6 hours at their current velocity. Director, Dr. Cruz interrupted, his consciousness still linked to the precursor systems. There's something you need to see. The facility's displays shifted, revealing a network of similar installations scattered throughout the galaxy. Most were dormant, but this one's activation had sent out a signal. Others were responding. The precursors built a transcendence network, Dr. Tanaka realized, her augmented eyes scanning the data. This facility isn't just for transformation, it's a key to accessing their entire legacy. Shaw made a decision that would alter the course of human history. Begin full evacuation protocols, but download everything. The Council can't be allowed to shut this down. As the team worked to extract and secure the precursor data, Shaw contacted Earth through secure quantum channels. The news from home was equally dramatic. The Council's reaction to their inspection findings was stronger than anticipated, President Rodriguez reported. They're demanding oversight of all human development programs. They suspect something, Eleanor. Let them suspect, Shaw replied. We've found what we needed. Humanity's next step doesn't require their permission. The evacuation proceeded with practiced efficiency, but Shaw insisted on being the last to leave. As she made her final inspection of the facility's core, Dr. Cruz, still linked to the precursor systems, shared one last revelation. The Council species, he said, they were all given this chance. Each of them found precursor facilities, but they chose to reject the transformation. They feared losing control, losing their physical power. That's why they suppress these technologies, not because they're dangerous, but because they represent a path they were too afraid to take. The Council ships were less than an hour away when the Prometheus finally departed, carrying humanity's future in its databanks. But they had left something behind, a quantum beacon, broadcasting on frequencies the Council couldn't detect, calling to other species who might be ready for transformation. Back on Earth, the process of disseminating the precursor knowledge began. The Council's demands for oversight were met with diplomatic delays and bureaucratic obstacles while humanity's best minds worked to understand and implement what they had discovered. The Mars Development Center transformed again, this time into something unprecedented, a public facility for consciousness exploration, operating right under the Council's nose. The technologies they developed there weren't weapons or ships, but tools for expanding human consciousness, preparing their species for the leap the precursors had intended. We're approaching this wrong, Shaw announced during a critical strategy session. We've been thinking about proving ourselves to the Council, showing them our worth. But the precursors showed us a different path. We don't need the Council's approval, we need to transcend their entire paradigm of power. The next phase of human development began in secret bunkers and hidden laboratories across the solar system. The quantum consciousness transfer technology was refined, allowing humans to explore states of existence beyond physical form. Each breakthrough brought them closer to understanding what the precursors had become. But the Council wasn't idle. Their surveillance increased, their restrictions tightened. They could sense something was happening, even if they couldn't identify what. Then came the signal they had been waiting for. Other precursor facilities were activating across the galaxy. The quantum beacon they had left behind was working, calling to species who, like humanity, had been deemed unworthy by the Council. Shaw stood in the new quantum observation chamber beneath Olympus Mons, watching as signals from transformed humans began to light up the galaxy map. The Council had rejected humanity's bid for membership in their political body, never realizing they were rejecting an outdated concept. The true revolution wouldn't be fought in physical space. It would unfold in realms the Council refused to acknowledge, spreading across the galaxy through channels they couldn't control. Humanity wasn't just adapting, they were evolving beyond the Council's ability to contain them. 10 years after the Council's rejection, their worst fears had come true, though not in any way they could have predicted. Director Eleanor Shaw stood in the transformed council chamber, her consciousness existing simultaneously in physical form and in the higher dimensions humanity had learned to access. Before her, the council members watched in a mixture of awe and horror as their carefully maintained order crumbled. "You don't understand what you've done," the chief arbiter of the Zalo declared, his scales dulled with age and stress. "The stability of the galaxy was never truly stable," Shaw interrupted, her voice resonating across multiple planes of existence. "You maintained control by suppressing evolution, by denying species their true potential." The chamber itself seemed to pulse with energy as more humans in their transcended state manifested around her. They weren't alone. Representatives from a dozen other species who had found and activated their own precursor facilities joined them, their consciousness bridging the gap between physical and higher dimensional space. The past year had seen a cascade of transformations across the galaxy. The quantum beacon they'd left at the first precursor facility had done its work, calling to other species who, like humanity, had been deemed unworthy of council membership. These outcasts and rejects had found their own paths to transcendence, creating a new network of consciousness that spanned the galaxy. "Your greatest fear," Shaw continued, addressing the council, "was that humanity would disrupt your order. You were right, but not in the way you imagined. We didn't come to conquer your territory or steal your technology. We came to show the galaxy another way of existing." Dr. Cruz, one of the first to undergo the transformation, manifested beside her. His consciousness now moved freely between dimensions, understanding reality in ways the council had deliberately forgotten. "The precursors left their legacy for all species," he explained. "They knew that true advancement couldn't come through control and restriction. It had to come through transformation and transcendence." The real representatives shifted uncomfortably, their telepathic fields disturbed by the higher dimensional energies now filling the chamber. They, perhaps more than the other council species, could sense the truth of what was happening. Their own history, carefully hidden from their younger members, contained records of refusing the precursor transformation out of fear of losing their telepathic dominance. "Your species were all given this chance," Shaw revealed, projecting images of the original precursor contacts across the chamber. "Each of you found the facilities, understood their purpose, and chose to reject transcendence. Instead, you formed this council to prevent others from making the choice you feared to make." The Aeon, despite their advanced technology, seemed to shrink from the multidimensional display. Their silver skin reflected the energies of transcended beings, creating a disorienting kaleidoscope of light and consciousness. "This is why you feared us," Shaw continued. "Not because we were violent or unstable, but because you recognized in humanity the same drive that you once possessed, the desire to evolve, to transform, to become something greater than our original form." The chamber erupted in argument as council members faced the truth of their own history. But they fell silent as a new presence manifested in their midst, a precursor consciousness, drawn by the convergence of energies and awakened minds. The being's form shifted through multiple dimensions, incomprehensible to physical senses but crystal clear to those who had undergone the transformation. Its thoughts reached out to all present, physical and transcended alike. "The time of separation is ending," the precursor consciousness communicated. "We did not leave this galaxy to abandon it, but to prepare it for this moment. Each species must choose its own path, to remain as they are, or to evolve beyond physical limitations." Shaw felt the impact of these words ripple through the council chamber. The younger members of each species, those who hadn't been part of the original rejection of transcendence, were especially affected. They could sense the possibility of something greater than the power structures they had been born into. "The council's authority was always temporary," Shaw declared. "A holding pattern until enough species were ready for the true next step in galactic evolution. That time has come." The next hours saw the galaxy's power structure transform as dramatically as the species themselves. The council's authority didn't end. There would always be those who chose to remain in physical form, who needed governance and structure. But it was forced to acknowledge the reality of transcended beings and the right of species to choose their own path. Humanity, the species they had rejected as too unstable, too unpredictable, had become the bridge between physical existence and higher dimensional transcendence. The Earth's solar system, once seen as a backwater, became a crucial nexus for species seeking to understand and undergo the transformation. Shaw's final act as a purely physical being was to establish the Transcendence Protocol, guidelines for species approaching the threshold of higher dimensional existence. Unlike the Council's restrictions, these were suggestions rather than rules, helping species understand the implications of their choice without controlling their decision. "We didn't come seeking revenge for your rejection," she told the Council in her last address to them. "We came to fulfill the destiny you turned away from. The galaxy doesn't need rulers, it needs guides, bridges between what is and what could be." As Shaw prepared for her own final transformation, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The Council's rejection had been necessary, pushing humanity to find its own path, to discover truths that controlled development would have hidden. Their greatest defeat had led to their greatest triumph. The galaxy was entering a new age, not one of conflict between physical powers, but of coexistence between multiple states of being. The Council would adapt or become irrelevant, while transformed species explored realms of existence that their ancestors could hardly have imagined. Humanity had not just found its place in the galaxy, it had helped reshape the very nature of galactic civilization. As Shaw's consciousness expanded into higher dimensions for the final time, she understood that this wasn't an ending, but a beginning. The real journey of discovery was just starting. In the transformed Council chamber, now a nexus point between physical and transcended space, representatives of both states of being began the work of building a new galactic order. The Council's rejection of humanity had not contained them, it had set them free to become something far greater than anyone had imagined. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter as consciousness after consciousness made the choice to evolve, to transform, to transcend. The galaxy was awakening to its true potential, and the future was infinite with possibility.